Okay, let's dive right into the world of The Division. It's one of the most chilling post-apocalyptic settings ever created, not because of zombies or nukes, but because of how real the collapse feels. So today, we're going to break down the entire lore, from the single person who lit the match to the shadow war that's still raging in the ashes. And it all begins with one man, Dr. Gordon Amherst. You see, this wasn't an accident. The end of the world wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, made by a virologist who truly believed humanity was a plague, and he was the cure. His goal wasn't just chaos, it was a total, brutal reset of the planet. So, here's how we're going to unpack all of this. First, we'll look at the weapon itself, the so-called green poison. Then, the day it was all unleashed. After that, we'll meet the warlords fighting over what's left, understand the Division's actual mission, and finally, we'll pull back the curtain on the hidden players pulling all the strings. All right, let's start at the beginning. The catalyst, the biological weapon that brought modern society to its knees, the green poison. So its official name is variola chimera, but everybody knows it as the dollar flu. And the most important thing to grasp here is that it's built on a smallpox framework. Amherst took one of the deadliest diseases humanity ever faced and basically gave it an upgrade. He made it smarter, stronger, and completely immune to any vaccine or cure we have. And this just shows you the sheer cold-blooded intent behind it all. Amherst was aiming for a 90% mortality rate. Think about that. He didn't want to just make people sick. He wanted to leave only a tiny fraction of humanity alive, the number he thought the planet could handle. And here's where the design gets really diabolical. For a whole week, you're infected, but you have no idea. You feel fine. Then, right when you start to feel like you just have a bad flu, that's when you become a walking biological weapon. By the time the really horrific symptoms show up, it's too late. You've already passed it on to dozens, maybe hundreds of other people. This wasn't just modified smallpox either. It was a monstrous cocktail. It's like Amherst went shopping for the worst viruses he could find, Ebola, Marburg, H1N1, and spliced them all together. This thing was built for one reason and one reason only: maximum destruction. So you've built the perfect weapon. Now, how do you deploy it for the most damage possible? Simple. You unleash it on the single busiest, most chaotic shopping day of the entire year, Black Friday. The plan was just brutally elegant. Slather the virus on cash, release it into circulation in New York City on Black Friday, and then just let consumerism do the rest. At first, everyone thought it was just a nasty flu, but it spread like wildfire. The attempt to quarantine Manhattan was a total disaster, creating the infamous dark zone. And before anyone knew what was happening, infected people on planes had turned it into a global pandemic. Okay, so fast forward 7 months. The virus has swept through the world, civilization is on life support. And in the ruins of Washington, D.C., a new, brutal kind of society is starting to take shape, led by violent warlords. And these are the folks who inherited the rubble. You've got the true sons, ex-military who think only their brutal discipline can save America. The outcasts, survivors of a quarantine who are now hell-bent on getting revenge on everyone. The hyenas, just pure chaos agents who live to loot and party. And then there are the cleaners, who believe the only way to get rid of the virus is to literally burn everything and everyone to the ground. This quote from Antoine Ridgway, it tells you everything you need to know about the true sons. To them, the collapse wasn't a tragedy, it was an opportunity. It was nature's way of culling the weak. And now they're here to build a new world where only the strong get to survive. And on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have Emmeline Shaw, the leader of the outcasts. Her people were basically locked in a quarantine zone and left to die. So now, in her eyes, everyone on the outside is guilty. She's not motivated by power, she's driven by pure, unadulterated vengeance. What's so wild is when you compare the cleaners and the outcasts, they're perfect opposites, right? One side wants to destroy every last trace of the virus by burning it. The other wants to spread it as a weapon. And yet, their methods are just as horrifying, and they both end up being these absolute monsters. So, with the government in pieces, and warlords trying to carve up what's left of the country, who is there to actually fight for the rest of us? Well, that's where the Division comes in. The Strategic Homeland Division, or SHD, is basically America's panic button. These are sleeper agents. They're doctors, firefighters, engineers, just living normal lives, waiting for their watch to light up. And when they get activated, their directive is simple. Do whatever it takes to save what's left. They have ultimate authority. Their job is to basically be the immune system for a dying nation. But here's the crucial detail. The first wave of agents that got sent into New York, they mostly failed. A lot of them were killed, and even worse, some went rogue, like the infamous Aaron Keener. The players in the games, you and me, were the second wave. We're the cleanup crew. But here's the thing. Fighting all these street gangs and warlords, that's just putting out fires. It's treating the symptom, not the disease. Because while the agents are busy on the front lines, much more powerful, hidden forces are making their real moves. I mean, you have to stop and ask yourself, in all of this chaos, who is really benefiting? The gangs are just trying to survive. But this level of collapse, it creates a power vacuum. And the real war is being fought over who gets to fill it. And that brings us to the Black Tusk. These guys aren't scavengers. They are a hyper-advanced private military company. They show up with drones, robot dogs, and technology that nobody else has. Their goal is simple, a hostile takeover of the United States. And then there are the Hunters. These guys are the boogeymen of the Division's world. They are these silent, enigmatic assassins who appear out of nowhere. They hunt Division agents specifically, and they take their smartwatches as trophies. For the longest time, nobody knew who they were or where they came from. Well, the truth is somehow even more terrifying. The Hunters were created by the government. They were designed as a failsafe, a countermeasure specifically to hunt and kill Division agents if the Division itself ever went rogue or started ignoring orders. They are literally the Division's own executioners. And this quote from Aaron Keener, the very first rogue agent, it just perfectly sums everything up. He knew that the chaos in the streets was just a smokescreen. The real fight was happening in the shadows, between these huge, powerful forces like the Black Tusk, the Hunters, and whatever was left of the government. Which leaves us with the biggest question of all. The pandemic was started by one man's twisted fantasy. The factions trying to seize control are ruthless killers. And the same government that created the heroes also created a secret death squad to keep them in line. So in a world this broken, who are you even supposed to root for? Who are the real villains?